Altered Carbon on Netflix is a great show, but can be confusing. Here we have a guide explaining questions fans have about Season 1. Altered Carbon combines aspects of cyberpunk and sci-fi noir in Netflix's 2018 series based on the novel by Richard K. Morgan. Season 2 just dropped in February, and before watching, fans might need a little brush up on the important details on Season 1. Set about 800 years in the future, Earth is a very different place. The great divide of wealth has become impossible to surpass as the wealthy have become akin to gods known as Meths. Thanks to a technology called digital human freight, human consciousness can be uploaded into stacks. Humans can essentially achieve immortality by inhabiting different bodies, called resleeving with the same stacks. Confused yet? Here are the main plot points of Season 1. Number 10, Takeshi Awakens. The story begins with a flashback of Takeshi Kovacs being arrested by the Praetorians, the violent interstellar protectors. 250 years later, he is awoken after being kept on ice. Essentially, his stack was kept dormant until he is resleeved into a new body. He is released on parole and leased by Bancroft Industries in order to solve a murder. He is met by the chatty Kristen Ortega, Bay City PD detective, who grills him for an information. She drives him to Suntouch House, a mansion so tall it is beyond the clouds, and there he meets the man who freed him. Number 9, The Job. Lawrence Bancroft is one of the richest men on Earth, having lived for centuries thanks to the stack technology. He's awoken Kovacs to solve his own murder, one he survived thanks to his consciousness being backed up to the satellite seconds before his death. Thankfully, he had a vault full of clones waiting for him to resleeve into. His death looks like a suicide, but Bancroft is convinced he was murdered. Due to his stack being destroyed, he has no recollection of the 48 hours leading up to his death. He explains he hired Kovacs for his envoy intuition and that he will give Kovacs a full pardon if he can solve the murder. Number 8, The Raven. Kovacs takes the night to think about Bancroft's offer. He is met again by Ortega, who is full of questions about why Bancroft has asked him to take on the case. Ortega and her team had followed every lead they could and it led to nothing. Kovacs checks into an AI hotel, The Raven, where he is attacked by Dimmy the Twin and some goons. He is assisted by the proprietor of the hotel, Poe, who kills Dimmy, although his stack survives. Kovacs decides that if someone is out to get him after 250 years on ice, Bancroft must have been murdered. Number 7, Sifting Through the Evidence. Kovacs' investigation leads him to a man called Vernon Elliott. He discovers that Elliott's daughter Lizzie had been murdered. Lizzie was working as a prostitute at a brothel called Jack It Off, and Elliott blamed Bancroft for her death as he was a customer of hers. Elliott still has his daughter's stack, and it is apparent that she is stuck in a trauma loop. Kovacs takes a trip to Jack It Off and discovers that Bancroft has violent tendencies towards working with girls and buys them new sleeves if he kills them. Kovacs is invited to a party at the Bancroft estate and asks Elliott to be his wingman at the party in exchange for Poe performing psychosurgery on Lizzie. Besides the Meths being pretty shady, Kovacs doesn't get many leads from the party. Number 6, Putting the Pieces Together. Kovacs is kidnapped and tortured by Dimmy, who keeps referring to him as Riker. Ortega later confesses that Kovacs was resleeved in the body of her old partner and lover, Riker, who was arrested on bogus charges and put on ice. They discover footage of Bancroft beating his son Isaac, and this leads them to Isaac's apartment. They discover an illegal 3D bioorganic printer and a printed clone of Bancroft himself. It appears Isaac has been impersonating his father. Kovacs accuses Isaac of the murder, but he has an alibi for the time of his death. Ortega is gravely injured by the Ghostwalker, but Kovacs pays her hospital bill, which includes a bionic arm. Number 5, The Truth. Kovacs and Ortega get themselves in a sticky situation at Fightrome and are rescued by a mysterious figure who turns out to be none other than Kovacs' sister, Ray. Kovacs believed she had died along with his love of his life, Quell, at the Battle of Stronghold. After questioning Ray about the circumstances of Quell's death, he finds a room full of sleeves that his sister has been using to pull the strings of people surrounding the investigation. Not only was Ray responsible for Quell's death, but she also played Bancroft into spinning up Kovacs and involving him in the investigation. She tells him that he needs to come up with a suspect so that Bancroft will close the case. Number 4, the frame job. Kovacs gets Elliot's wife, Ava, released in order to help him with the frame job. The Elliots are reunited with their daughter Lizzie in Virtual, where she's been training in martial arts and knife throwing under the tutelage of Poe. Kovacs frames Bancroft's lawyer, Omo Prescott, for the murder. She is stripped of her reputation and title, and Kovacs is granted his pardon. After spinning his elaborate tale, Kovacs realizes why Bancroft must have killed himself and that it has something to do with the brothel called Head in the Clouds. Number 3, Head in the Clouds. In order to foil his sister's plan for him, Kovacs used the 3D printer to create a clone of himself, which takes off on a tropical sex vacation with Miriam Bancroft. Elliot poses as a meth so that the team can hack into the Head in the Clouds. Ray's backup is spiked with a virus to prevent her from using her remotely backed up conscience, so she can't spin up back up again. It comes to light that Ray dosed Bancroft with an aggression enhancer, Stallion, knowing it would cause him to real death a working girl so that she could blackmail him into killing Resolution 653. The bill would allow even people with religious coding to be spun back up to accuse their murders, something which would put her out of business. Ray explains that Bancroft did indeed kill himself because he wanted to forget causing the real death of the working girl, and his arrogance wouldn't let him believe it was a suicide. Number 2, Retribution. Poe is disintegrated by one of Ray's lackeys, but before he dies, he sends Lizzie's consciousness to Head in the Clouds. She casts herself into one of the synthetic sleeves on the ship and begins to take out all of Ray's henchmen one by one. She cuts power to the ship and it begins losing altitude. Ray tells Kovacs that Quell is still alive and offers to give her to him if he helps her escape. Kovacs declines, shoots her in the stack, and decides to go down with the ship while everyone else evacuates. Luckily, he is kept company by his ever-present hallucination of Quell. Number 1, the aftermath. Kovacs' stack was pulled from the wreckage and he has to make a decision which version of himself gets to live, his clone or himself. The first Kovacs survives. Ortega gives a recording of Ray's confession to the media and Bancroft is ruined. When the police go to arrest him, Lizzie shows up and reveals that as she was pregnant with Bancroft's child and it was Miriam Bancroft who killed her. Bancroft leaves everything to his son Isaac. Ava Elliot is pardoned, Resolution 653 is passed, and Kovacs gives Riker's sleeve back. Kovacs is cleared of all charges and is free to pursue his lost love, Quell. Well, that will do it for this video. Hopefully we caught you up to speed with what happened in Season 1. This is Flick Central, and thank you for watching.